Hello, it's Gina with another episode of Breakfast with Billionaires, where we read books every morning about billionaires. And today's book is Reid Hoffman, and it's called The Startup of You. Now, Reid was one of the original founders of PayPal. And once they sold PayPal for $1.5 billion, this group of guys, they ended up all spinning off into businesses that all generate over $1 billion worth of sales and marketing. So these guys obviously are on the top of their game. I'm going to listen to them. But Reid actually started LinkedIn after he started PayPal. And LinkedIn, of course, is a social networking site where you pretty much have your resume, you're networking with other professionals, and you're able to see other people's networks as well. So I kind of thought to myself, well, this might be more of a book geared towards graduates and kind of people just starting out in their career. But I got a lot of value from this book, and I think that it's one that you want to invest in. So because he is a billionaire, he's able to spend his day looking into startups and figuring out which ones that he should invest in with all this mega wealth. So he's able to use his unique perspective on his startup venture to kind of help us see how we can help ourselves with creating our careers. So come on over. I'm going to show you the top 10 ideas I learned from the book. I think that you'll get a lot out of it as well. Okay, so the first takeaway I got was to be in a permanent state of beta. So a lot of times people get really comfortable in their careers and they'll just wait for their company to roll out a training class. He says that is death. You need to go ahead and find a new skill set. You need to look into new books, learning a new language, learning a new computer program, something to get your skill set up to par and always be changing and upgrading. 2, he says we should see ourselves as entrepreneurs. Even if you're considered an employee, guess what? Your company is not going to care about your career the way that you should. So you have to be very proactive with getting your skill set and upgrades. So that's a really good advice. 3, he sees people getting a lot of advice on what they should do as a career. They say people tell you to take advantage of your strengths. People tell you to just follow your passion. Or 3, just to kind of do what's available in the market. And he says the best thing to do is to combine all 3 of those. So you need to look at your strengths, what your competitive advantages are, what your dreams are, what you're aspiring to be, and then also look what the market does and look where you could use that in today's society. So he uses, this is number 4, but he uses examples that are billionaires that have done this. And they basically would learn something on a new job. They would use that skill to be flexible for the next job and to adapt to what the market could offer them. And he used, I know Sheryl Sandberg was a good one. And she had an overall vision of what she wanted to do, but she also was very flexible. And of course now she's a billionaire. But basically just being very adaptable, very flexible, and always upgrading your skills. 5, I think the 5th one was worth the price of the book. It talks about, don't wait until you're fired or until you're miserable or your back's against the wall to reach out to people and ask them, hey, I need a favor. Do you have an opening in your company? He wants you to incorporate networking into your weekly or monthly schedule. And he mentions how it's so awkward if you go meet somebody at a conference and then 3 years later you'll get this random email from them where it'll be like, hey, hope you're doing well. I know I haven't talked to you in the last few years, but I need to ask for a favor. And it's like, if you didn't reach out to me all this time, I'm not going to be stepping up to help you, or nor do I know you to step up to help you. So he talks about, just being very proactive with that. 6, he talks about looking for intelligent breakthroughs or intelligent breakouts. He used the story of George Clooney, who he was working like little side gigs of acting, nothing that was full-time, and then he got handed a script that was called ER, which is a television show that was really popular back in the day, and he jumped on that train. He just took it. It was his golden opportunity, and he didn't know it was going to be so great, but of course now he acts alongside with Brad Pitt because he took the risk to jump on this breakthrough. So he says it's not a risk if you're prepping yourself for it. So if you're willing to go across the country or across the state to get an upgrade in your career, just go ahead and poise yourself and be ready to jump on the opportunity when it presents itself. Okay, 7, 3 kinds of networks that you need to have. He talks about having someone that's really top in their industry, someone that knows you really well, and someone that's overall is a smart person. Those are the 3 kinds of networks that you should have and be developing. So for instance, people that know you really well, if you had a career opening and you talk to this person, you're like, hey, I have this opening, I think it'd be great, here's what it would be doing. They might say to you, hey man, I know what you're like and I know your personality type, and I can tell you that you're going to be bored to tears doing that job. So, you know, just have like a sounding board of people. And then he mentioned about industry. He said that if you're like negotiating your salary, how it could be really good to have a lawyer who you know to call up and say, hey, I'm trying to negotiate this. What's the best way I should do it? And they'll have lots of ideas for you. And then just overall a smart person just to give you an overall vision of you know, the good and the bad. So 3 kinds of networks. 8, fund for taking people out to lunch, going out to coffee, and going to conferences. So he talks about people are very familiar with how they should invest in mutual funds or in their retirement plan, but they don't really take the money to invest in themselves. So he mentions take a portion of each paycheck, put it into a side fund, and put that towards your conferences, your developmental seminars, and taking someone out to lunch either once a week, once a month, coffee. Just having the extra money available so you can do that and do very strategically as well. 9, creating your own mafia. These billionaires, they definitely stick together. They are a sounding board for each other. They bounce ideas. They collaborate and co-found things together. So he says basically have an advisory team that you can network with. And then the most inspiring thing I really got from the book too was that with PayPal, Reid started as a very, very much of a side gig where Peter Thiel, he tapped him on the shoulder. He said, hey, I know that you've come across some of these challenges that we're currently having. Would you mind kind of helping us with this current challenge, this little hiccup we're having? And so he started it as a side gig with potential, and it ended up being $1.5 billion industry. So it definitely gives you a lot of hope that if you're not working where you want to be currently, that if you do some side gigs with potential, it could turn into a lot more. So I also wanted to mention to you that he advises people to network with their alumni group, with meetup groups. Maybe you've got an organization, a nonprofit or a meetup group that maybe meets once a month. Go to those events. They're probably near free, and network with people. He also mentioned to stay on top of the upcoming technology, MIT Technology Review. I got this for like $7 at Barnes & Noble's. I think it's like $30 for an annual subscription to it, but it kind of keeps you up to date with what's going on in the world. If you're going to read something, it might as well be something useful that you'll be able to sound intelligent about what's happening in the day's world. So check that out. I think that you'll find that information very useful. Like I said, I originally thought this would be like more geared towards people that are just starting out, like maybe just graduating. But I feel like it's kind of a kick in the butt because everyone gets kind of comfortable after a while, and it kind of helps you just kind of jumpstart your career. So I highly recommend the book. Every chapter, he's got action steps for you to take that I think will be great for you to look at. And of course, I'm starting this book club myself because, you know, I felt like I wasn't making a lot of new developments in my career. So I feel like this is only my 4th book that I'm reviewing, but it's really helping me out. It's making me see the bigger perspective, and hanging out with these billionaires for breakfast every morning is definitely making me feel a lot better. Like there's hope out there that I could do more than what I'm doing now. So highly recommend starting your own book club. But if you want to leave a message on below for me, maybe there's a book that you think that was awesome for your career, I'd love to hear about it. or if you've got some other billionaire books you'd like me to check out, I will do it. But thanks for joining me, and I'll see you at the next book review.